Well, welcome, Ryan.
Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
So I'm going to just dive right into it.
Sounds good.
When and why did you start video marketing for your business?
Good question. So I've been in real estate now for about 6 years. And honestly, I started doing video almost immediately. And I was new in the industry, didn't have a lot of clients, but I would even, do stuff from buyers. And I didn't have a lot of listings, so I would go and I would look at some places and just get to know the market, and I would record some stuff and just really trying to get familiar with neighborhoods, buildings, just everything that I could, do. And then I spit some market knowledge back to the general public, and through social media, it's just been great.
You were ahead of the game.
Maybe for some, but yet it's tough. I mean, I know everyone that's probably listening too it takes work. And as you get busier, sometimes it's one of those things that you just don't do as much. Today, it's a different story. We make it a priority. And I'm sure we'll get into that. But when I first got into it, it needed something that didn't have a lot of capital money saved. I was getting into real estate. I'm not from Minnesota. If you don't know that about me, I'm from Wisconsin. So hopefully I get to, no one boos me. But yes, I'm from Wisconsin.
Are you a Packer fan?
Packer fan.
Okay.
I'm a Badger fan. My house is divided. So Lisa, my wife, will, on game days, yes, we both dress our kids in either green and gold, red and white, or it's purple and gold. So, so I had to build the whole network. I had to basically start from scratch.
Yeah.
And the only way I knew how to do that, because my previous job, I was a sales manager for a fitness company, and my territory was the East Coast. So all my contacts and relationships were really out there. So I had to find some way to get into the marketplace here, because again, I wasn't from here. I didn't have a lot of connections. So social media seemed to be it, and it seemed to be gaining some traction, and then just kept doing it.
So for those initial videos that you would do, you would just take them and upload them to like Instagram, or did you have a YouTube channel?
So I wasn't as daring initially. A lot of them were YouTube, and I would do private or unlisted links and only send them to, clients or friends and people in my sphere. And I didn't really get comfortable. I mean, because it does take a little bit of time to get comfortable to actually put yourself out in social, and that comes just with practice.
Yeah.
I think it really does. So not to say I was like hiding it, but I was new in this industry. Like, I was learning from people who have been in it for 20, 30 years, but I also learned a lot what not to do because they've been in it for so long. And I don't think some of those agents were keeping up with the changing of technology and just how people search and just how people are, looking at real estate today. Just because they've been in it for that long doesn't mean that they're successful. And I saw a little bit more of an opportunity. So I probably didn't really start posting on social on a regular basis until about 3 years ago. So, I mean, it took a little bit of time, but again, I didn't have, a lot of listings, which a lot of people, that's what you'll see. So again, I got more creative in just trying to give back more educational stuff to my sphere that I knew, friends, family, anybody that would listen or take on, that information. So it was definitely a learning experience, and still learning today, because it's changing very, very rapidly.
What's the biggest channel you use, like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or what's the one that you use the most? Because we talk about it all the time. You kind of have to focus on one thing and then be really good at that one thing.
Right now, it's probably Instagram.
Okay.
A couple years ago, it was probably Facebook. And I think LinkedIn right now is actually making more of a comeback. And then, don't laugh at me, but TikTok. My team has been pushing, to put out some more just of those TikTok videos. Not the ones you guys probably see, but the ones for real estate, and just, to help promote and just kind of get the name out there. So I just think it's all good. I don't think there's one over the other. However, real estate is, it's a little bit more lifestyle. It's a little bit more glamorous, a little bit more, and pictures and Instagram and stories go a little bit farther, I think, with reach. Facebook is still good. I don't think it's maybe as good unless you're running maybe ads or something behind it, but that's probably another conversation too. So right now, and I think there could be something else coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like TikTok was
we try
newer.
we try to put equal effort into them all. We try to post at different times. We try to put different content and captions and copy together for each different channel. Sometimes we use the same ones and we do some beta testing just to see how it performs. And sometimes, we think something's going to perform really well and it doesn't. Like you take the longest time sometimes to put content together. And I think that's one of the things. So everyone, that knows Gary Vee, he just talks about, just document stuff versus trying to create things. And I think that's what the biggest challenge for some people are, because they sit there for hours and be like, okay, I want to do something cool, but what is that, right? And it's like, if you would just go out there and do it versus like thinking it, overcomplicating it and thinking it, I think it's just going to be more authentic and it's going to be a little bit more genuine for people and they're going to see that.
Analysis paralysis.
Correct.
Yeah, totally. So when you first started, and we were talking about this off microphone, you said you're just using your iPhone, right? And so when did you decide to invest? Like truthfully, like invest into this?
Yeah. So when I first started, it was my iPhone. That's it. And then I jokingly said I did. I went out and bought a GoPro because I was like, I'm going to strap this GoPro to everything. I'm going to hide it in corners. And I did some open houses and I got, some cool footage. It was kind of difficult. But even before that, like I needed a new iPhone for a long time. And my real estate coach at the time was like, just go buy a new damn iPhone. The cameras on those things are so much better anyways. So small investment. But if you look back at some of the stuff, like even on my YouTube or even on Instagram, like if you go back, you'll see, I think I posted a story even a couple of weeks ago of one of the first listings that I legitimately like walked in with a plan. And I look at it now and I cringe and I kind of laugh at it just because it was from a phone. I've had a mic that had, the cord all the way to my phone. I've been standing outside of houses with a tripod and I've had neighbors walking by looking at me like, what is this guy doing? Right. But it was just anything like if a client hires me, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to promote their property and to get it sold for the premium price that they deserve. So I come from, a marketing and sports management type of background. So that was, when I got in the industry, I wanted to leverage that. I wanted to leverage more of the creative side.
And the fun side of it.
It is fun. It's a lot of work. But yeah, I just had an iPhone and I would put it on a tripod or I would take it with me and I would just, turn it around. And again, that takes a little bit of guts, just to do and put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. But once you kind of get over that hurdle and that objection of like, you got to turn the phone around and like, talk into it. And then like you screw up a bunch of times, but it happens. And like, again, I think that's more authentic for people to see who you are.
And those posts
and relate.
Do better.
Typically they do better. Yeah. Because we all see this stuff on Instagram too, where it's like, it's too perfect to be true anyways. And you just kind of know. Right. So not that, professional stuff is not needed, because I think there's a good balance between that. And kind of fast forwarding to today, I doubled down on video stuff probably a little over a year ago. So
in the thick of COVID?
In the thick of COVID. I actually had to kind of look back. So Jordan, the videographer here that is here in studio with you guys.
We should have gave him a mic. Yeah. Pop in here.
I met him at a podcast like this with another real estate company, started following him on Instagram, brought him in and just said, I think we can collaborate. I think I see, you've got a good eye for things with my creative mind, and just we can collaborate on some stuff and how do we, kind of do some things that are different. I spent a lot of time during COVID seeing stuff that everyone was doing, and I would see the same things. Mm-hmm. For better or for worse, I spent, 3 months at home with my 2-year-old at that time because school was kind of closed, and there's not a whole lot to do because he was very active. Like I wasn't able to really work, but I just analyzed videos a lot of times. And then it got me to a point where I knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do them. And I think, when Jordan and I go to like a listing now, like we've got things ready to go. Like we don't just walk into the property and just be like, all right, like what are we going to do today? Like we have like a game plan. Like we look at the photos in advance. Sometimes we'll even go and scout the location in advance as well. So it's a little bit more in depth today, but I think it's definitely well worth it. And for what it's worth, I just looked at some of the YouTube stats on just views. One of our last videos actually got 11,000 views. So when you can go into a listing appointment, or you can just tell your sellers, like, thousands of people are also seeing this through social, and that's just through YouTube. That's a value add.
Yeah,
right?
this is the service you can provide them. That's different.
That's different. And again, it's taken years to get here. This doesn't happen overnight. So again, people that are listening, it does take some time, because I get questions all the time, even from my own brokerage and the advisors in our office is like, how can I do that? And it's just like, just start somewhere.
Literally do that.
Do that. If you want to do it, learn from it. It's not going to be perfect. Learn from it, do it, keep doing it. Don't give up, because you'll look at the one that's got 11,000 views, right? But if you scroll down a couple years, you'll see some that have 10, 15 views, right? Like, hey, you got to start somewhere. So it's a progress. And it's one of those things that just takes time. And one of the quotes on my whiteboard in my office this year has been progress over perfection. Mm-hmm. So just do something. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I think that goes a long ways for anybody that just wants to kind of start. And in my mind, seeing where video searching, how Google works, how some of these tech search engines actually work for our industry, I just feel like if you're not trying to do something for your brand, how are you going to be searchable in the near future? I mean, let's talk about Alexa and let's talk about Siri for a little bit. Voice is going to be very big. AI is getting bigger. So there's just a lot that I don't understand yet, but like our industry in the real estate world seems to even be way behind on a lot of that stuff versus what the general public and other industries are at. So
I got a lot of questions.
I have a lot of questions too. Now we're going to.
Okay, well, you go first.
Okay, so because I think we're dealing with this with the podcast right now too, and I think you wouldn't have said it if a lot of people can't relate to this, is like, how do you get past that point of like, from the time you sat down with Jordan, I'm sure regardless of how professional Jordan's videos look and how great they are, like there is that kind of hump where you have to get over like getting it seen by people. Just because like you put out an amazing video doesn't mean it's going to blow up the way you think. But as you continue to invest in it, then it's going to continue to grow. So how did you keep yourself going instead of being like, ugh, the first one didn't work? Like,
Great question. And I think it's just a mindset. I think you have to go into it like anything, right? Like any sport, if, you're an athlete or you're not going to, I'm a golfer. So like not every shot's going to be great.
Yeah.
You got to keep going back. Golf is a very interesting sport because you hit more bad shots than good ones, but those good ones make you come back, right? So, and the analogy of baseball, like a really good baseball player, their batting average is like 300. So they strike out 70% of the time, right? So hearing no in our industry, we hear it a lot. So it's the same thing with your marketing. Like you got to take that, like you're probably going to put out content that's just not going to be great, or people just don't see it. And that's the other side of it. Unfortunately, in today's world, like the algorithms that a lot of them use, sometimes the same people will only see it. You got to kind of break through that. But the only way to do it is by doing it and keep doing it and be consistent with it. And just, if one doesn't work, figure out what didn't work and do another one. And the thing I love about like even the social world, most people forget within 24 hours anyways.
Oh yeah. Something else is popping up.
Exactly. So, you know, with my team, I talk about that. Post it. Like if it doesn't work, forget it. Like go on to the next one.
Nobody's going to remember. Nobody's going to be
But let's learn from it. Let's try to
Yeah.
learn from it. If it works, what did work? And then, you know, let's keep trying to do stuff and do more of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few questions. So you doubled down during the pandemic. What have you seen a larger return of investment on that? Like where you can say like this is to say it to someone starting out, this is well worth it to do, and this is.
And even when I say doubling down, like I remember running to and literally like getting in my car, going to every listing I had when the lockdown was basically like announced. I was like, what else can I do during this time? Because I was thinking about like the lockdown, like it's not going to just be a week, right? Like most people were like, oh, it'll be a couple of weeks and we'll be back, you know. And I was like, there's not a chance. Like when they were canceling the NCAA tournament, I was like, this shit's real, right? Yeah. So I was like, again, I just took my phone and I was going to every listing I had, basically just doing a room by room walkthrough tour to also try to promote it during that time, because I was like, these clients hired me to do a job. Mm-hmm. I have to try to do something different during this time. So with that, I mean, it was just one of those things. So bringing on a professional really, I mean, we started doing a couple and then it snowballed because I did see more engagement, but then I also saw more of a return, I would say, just from my peers. So inside our office, inside our Engel and Volkers shop, outside agents messaging me, asking me, seeing more properties and just, you know, asking the question, like, is this for sale? Is this, you know, is it coming soon? I mean, it blows my mind today, and I'm guilty of it too. Like it's on the MLS, but you'll see it on social and you'll all of a sudden be like, that actually could look like it fits my client. And you just miss it on the MLS, but you see it on social. Or, you know, I know there's rules and the MLS is putting in, you know, the coming soon and some of the strict rules, but, you know, if you know your stuff, you can actually get into some, you know, properties before they're even listed. So it's a great tool to have. So the return, I'm seeing it in other ways, but I've stopped other things too, traditional marketing. You know, I did think it was a good idea to market, you know, postcards to people because they were at home. During COVID, I saw very little return. So again, when I say double down, I just kind of took some of that and I just deployed majority of it just to video. And I just said, we're going to do at least, you know, one kind of video a month. And then that actually snowballed. And I joked, I said, Jordan's actually, I've seen him 3 times this week.
Yeah.
So some weeks are like that and some weeks aren't. Like there was a stint there where, you know, we didn't really shoot anything for a few weeks, but we had content to help back it up. And we're always trying to create new engaging stuff for people versus just the traditional stuff. And that was, if I can back up, one of the things that I liked about when we got together and when I was looking for a professional videographer was I wanted somebody that was outside of the industry. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For better or for worse, right? Like there's some great ones in our industry and I love them. My brain just always works a little bit differently and I want to be a little bit more cutting edge, or I want to be a little bit different where people are going to recognize that. So I thought a different set of eyes and not just a template or just the same stuff that each agent gets. And it's funny because we joke now when we see stuff and it's just like, we're glad we don't do that. And again, you have to start somewhere. And like I said, going back years, that was the same stuff I was doing. Right. But you learn, and then you're learning what the general public and your viewers and your buyers and your sellers, what engages them.
So I'm always fascinated by this because being a mom and balancing it all. Okay, so how much time does it take, would you say, to invest into, because it's a different form of lead generating in a way, right? And so how much time do you invest, and then how do you balance it all on your day-to-day work of having to post videos, do that, what along those lines, and then, you know, do your job of being like, and then also being a husband and father. It's a balancing act. And so I'm always intrigued to hear from other parents out there. How do you do it?
I spin a lot of plates. Yes. So I've got 2 kids. One's turning 3 here in a couple weeks, and one's 6 months. So both my wife and I mean, it is like we're juggling our schedules. But as far as the investment on like the content or the video side, right now it's more minimal because we can go into a property or a listing with a pretty good game plan and we can knock things out a lot quicker. Early on, it wasn't like that. Like we would try stuff and we'd be like, that doesn't work, you know, and we'd have to try something again. So it was maybe a little bit more in the first year just to kind of understand. But even from that, like from home, I mean, when I kind of walk through the door, like the kids get my attention until basically they go back down. So then that's my kind of my market research time that I'll look at videos and everything.
But do you use, sorry, so do you use like a Hootsuite or something along those lines to get all the content out there to help you, so you can be like, I already know that this is going to go out today. I can go do this listing appointment. I can go to T-ball, whatever that looks like. Or are you doing it fresh on as you go?
I used to. Yep. Used to do it just probably like everyone else, you know, posting, you know, as you kind of go. Then I took it on and I was like, I can't keep doing that. So I actually invested in just a system called Buffer. So you can add, you know, your social channels to it, and then you can schedule them whenever you want to go out, photos, which is good. You can even do stories. It'll notify you to add the story. But today, so my assistant Kelly is a big part of this. Like we're planning basically 2 weeks in advance always. We used to do it 3 to 4. But we found 2 weeks is kind of the sweet spot, because if you're planning out 4 weeks, things will change.
Yeah.
Even with listings or something that's sold or something, you know, so we got to try to stay more relevant. So she's really managing that every 2 weeks. So we've got something in there, you know, whether it's just a photo and a copy of something. If it's a video, we can splice it up. And that's the other thing that we love about video is you can reuse that video over and over and over so many different times. Not the same video, but if you've got somebody that is really good at editing or can do that, you can use that footage for a long time with different messaging. And then on top of Kelly manages a lot of it. I supplement, you know, a lot of the posting and approve it. And then there's a back person too that really kind of helps create some of the content. His name is Tyler, and he's got his own system through Airtable, is what it's called. And again, it helps us put it in there, but then I can approve it. I can see it all and make sure that it's, you know, either on brand or what I want. And once it's approved, then it kind of goes into the Buffer, and then it kind of goes into the system. So, but it's taken a while to get there. And what I would also say is it's taken a while for me to give up some of that responsibility. Like anything, it's a learning curve. But to help with my quality of life with the 2 kids, and when I come home after, you know, the day, they get my full attention, and I don't want to have to sit there and worry about what's going out, what's not going out. You know, is it the right content? Is not the right content, because we've already got the system in place. So a system like that, again, early on, I didn't have a system, and I would encourage anybody to look at least, you know, getting a system. So Hootsuite is great. I've heard good things about it. It's just, I use Buffer from kind of day one, and we had just kind of adopted that moving forward.
Because like the last thing you'd want to do is invest, you know, your capital into creating these videos and then not be consistent with it and, you know, get your investment or your return on investment. But when it comes to, you know, you said you do beta testing and experiment with different times, stuff like that. What is the best time? Do you, or for you, what have you found?
Depends on the platform.
Okay.
And even backing up a little bit too. So some of the stuff you have to post manually. LinkedIn, you know, so LinkedIn, when you do videos, you can post it through a Buffer or Hootsuite, but if it's a video, you have to click on it to play it. In order to play it automatically, you need to physically do it at that time. So again, Kelly, she'll have that set and she will do that then manually, or Tyler will. There's times that I even have to do it because if it's a little bit later at night, sometimes it's just my responsibility. But I think it depends on, to answer your question, Brooke, I think it depends on the platform you're using. LinkedIn, again, we're talking about it. I think it's a little bit more of a professional one, where people are probably going to see it more during the day, or what we have experienced is more in the mornings. More professionals are going to look at that in the mornings. If it's Instagram, evenings, right? Facebook, I think it's kind of hit or miss. Like you can basically kind of post anytime because it lives a little bit longer on Facebook than it does on some of the other platforms. But yeah, after 7 o'clock, usually stories are great because that's after dinner, or that's, the time when people are finally, kind of getting the kids to bed, and then they're sitting down. What can I do? Do I watch TV or do I scroll through my Instagram? And most of the time, Instagram wins.
Yeah. That's actually funny that you meant, because now that I'm even thinking about it, and we've, of course, interviewed people about it, we've talked about it, we've looked it up, we've read stuff about it, but I'm like, I always get the most, personally, on my own, personal stuff, I get the most engagement at night. But you don't think to post at night, for us at least, on the podcast, why would we post about the podcast at night? But it's that's when everybody's on.
And I don't know if it's just my sometimes ADD or if it's just me, but I'll catch myself, and my wife hates this. I'll be watching TV.
Oh yeah.
But you're flipping through Instagram or you're on your phone anyways. And it's what are you actually accomplishing between one and the other? But that's just how it is. And I think a lot more people are that way as well. So the evenings are probably some of the better times to do it. And so I think it depends on the platform.
So I love the gram. The podcast loves the gram. We love posting on it. With video, are you seeing regular feed, IGTV,
Reels.
Stories, reels? What are you doing? What works? What doesn't?
Again, we're trying it all. Reels are working really well. They get a lot of engagement. Within, in an hour or two, you can get, pretty high engagement. But we're doing IGTV. We're also doing stories. Again, kind of going back to the team, I'll handle a little bit more of the stories just because if it's on site or if it's something that we're doing, it's just nice to do that more immediately.
More authentic.
Authentic. Exactly. So, but we're doing it all. And then back to kind of the TikTok, some of those will blow up. Again, don't want to date myself, but TikTok's not my thing. But yet my team keeps saying there's attention there. And that's what it is. You still need attention. And I go back to getting my sellers or getting my clients the premium price that they deserve. And I shouldn't care where that attention comes from as long as they're able to afford and purchase the property. Right. So I struggle with, the TikTok, but at the same time, when you look at some of the engagement and some of the stuff that happens, it's probably worth a little bit more of my time.
And Gary Vee has been saying this since TikTok started. I remember even on his podcast was talking about doing TikTok for real estate. And it's well, if the, primary age on TikTok is 13, what's the point? Well, it's when that 13-year-old, when you nurture that, not 13-year-old.
I feel the primary age is the 20 your generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, your generation. Jeez, I'm old. But I've heard the stories of the 13-year-old telling their mom and dad that they saw this on TikTok, and mom and dad, because they knew mom and dad were looking for a house, next thing they know, they're we're buying the house.
Yeah.
So you never do know. I don't know how realistic that might be in our market, but at the same point, you never know. So again, part of my job when I talk to any type of client is we just want to make sure we're maximizing all of our efforts. And I don't know, and everyone runs their businesses differently. But I think some people miss that boat. And again, you guys work in the space. There's our number of agents from the start of COVID till now has gone up 35 or 40%. I forget the exact number, but it's outrageous.
We see it.
Which is fine, right? But how are they getting trained in, or how are they? Because again, we know the bar to enter our marketplace is pretty low. And that's tough on clients, right? Like, yes, it's a great market, but like, are they providing a great service? And to me, great service means a lot of different things, but we're talking about, videos and marketing and everything else. And that's part of it. You need to know your stats, you need to know the market, but you also need to know how to market property. I feel like there's people out there that just got their license because it looks easy and cool to do, and then they struggle. But even like the couple clients that they do service, those are the horror stories then you hear about, and it's unfortunate, and it's just, and we, myself included, I've always kind of had the mindset when I've got into it was to help change that a little bit, just help put out other good stuff so other people are challenged because they want to keep raising the bar.
Yeah. And I mean, as a client, if I were to hire you, I want you to be doing the most, right? Like if you're going to be listing my house and making, you have to earn it, right? And like, especially like you said, some of these newer agents, and I think we see it on the back end. It's like, what did this agent do for their client,
And I think it's market driven a little bit right now.
Yeah.
Because it is such a great market where people are like, what do I really need to do? Like the house is going to sell anyways. And for better or for worse, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are cutting commissions, or you see the flat rate brokerage or, the Redfin 1.5%, listing fee.
Yeah.
I just caution people, what do you really get with that? Yes, there's a fee included. But for, the longest time, I mean, real estate, like everyone needs a place to live. And when obstacles come up, you want a true professional in your corner to help navigate those. We joke, I mean, if the house is in good condition and it's priced right, pretty much anybody will be able to sell it today. That's not news to anybody, but it's like from the time that purchase agreement is signed till you sign on closing, right here, that's where the most, turmoil, obstacles come into play. And if you don't have somebody to help navigate those, that can be the problem. But from the marketing, if you're not truly marketing the property, and people ask me that all the time, they're like, well, why do I need a stage? Or why do you even need to come back and do videos? Like you're just doing photos. Like, because I want to look you in the eyes and be like, we squeezed every penny we possibly, like we've searched every corner of the marketplace and we found you the absolute best buyer, and they're paying the absolute best price. Yeah. And if I can't do that, then I feel like I haven't done my job.
Absolutely. And I mean, something that's like really special too, I actually just did this for my mom for Mother's Day, is our agent hired a drone person. This is back when like that was not a thing, you know what I mean? And so I still have the listing photos, and I had some artist draw one up or whatever, but it's like I have those photos that, now forever, like they'll have that video that they get to look back on, and like
the memory of that first house where they,
and to have it be represented in its best light, I think is so special, versus just being like, here's some iPhone photos I'm throwing up on the MLS,
Well, and that's true. I mean, it's just, I think it's a little bit of pride, is in what we do. So I think, again, it's going to be dependent on, who you talk to. But I think some of it just comes down to, taking pride in, your job, no matter if it's an agent, a closing agent, or if it's, title person, loan officer, anybody. I mean, you just take pride in what you're doing and provide that service.
I feel like that was a mic drop moment. Boom. Yeah, that was great.
But I do want to just add a couple other things too, just as far as like you were talking about your folks, and there's so many things people can do to stand out too. I mean, again, it doesn't always have to cost you money, right? Like, I mean, everyone thinks like you need to spend all this money on great equipment or like the couple of things I would say, use your iPhone as long as you possibly can. But get like a good mic. Sound is super critical. I mean, I've made the mistake too, where like you think you just nailed it, and you go back and you look, and you're like, I sound like I'm a frog. Like, what happened?
Yeah, there's like wind, covering you up.
So yeah, try different stuff as much as you possibly can, and don't be afraid. I think that's the biggest thing. Fear, right? Like,
Just do it.
Just do it. And that was one of our most recent posts too on Instagram. If you're following, like fear, like it's a 4-letter word that just scares the shit out of people. And it's not just in work, it's in life, it's in everything, right? Like they're afraid just to take that next step. And I'm guilty of it. And I'm on record of saying this. When I first got in the industry, I was looking up to so many other people and I didn't know where to start. There was so many other things going on, but it literally just takes one step. And I was afraid to put myself out there initially because I didn't know how people were going to respond and act. And, you know, if they were going to say something on Instagram or on Facebook and like make fun, like I had no idea. Right. But like, you need to just get over it. And you know, hey, like that is a big thing. And I think, the more you can practice or get over that fear, just the better, you know, whatever your job is, it's going to be, amazing for them because they're going to see the results.
There's this book called The 5-Second Rule, and I think there's also like a TED Talk about it. This gal, like Meg Robbins or something like that, where it's all about like count to 5 and just do it. Like literally, like just let everything melt away for that 5 seconds. Like count backwards from 5. Like you're gonna run and do a cannonball. But like same with like just pressing record on the video. Like I'm just gonna do it. Just do it. I love it.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
The 5-Second Rule is a good book. And that is one that I read, you know, for encouragement. There's a lot of others. But yeah, I mean, just start, just take a couple steps, you know, see how it goes. And again, just overcome your own, you know, internal fears, because I think you're your worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And critic. Yeah.
You are. But in today's, you know, again, kind of fast-paced society, like, who cares? You know, like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's you. You're gonna be okay. You know, don't let those critics, you know, get to you, and keep pushing forward. And it's the same that I kind of take into the approach of in real estate. Like, you have 3 seconds basically to capture somebody's interest, if that today. I mean, I think it used to be 3. It might even be like a second. I mean, honestly, it keeps getting less.
Which is weird and scary.
But from the video marketing standpoint too, like, you just need to kind of grab people's attention. You got to do whatever you can to stop their thumb. You know, when they walk into a house, they get 3 seconds basically to, you know, gauge whether it's for them or not, from feel, look, smell, all of it. I mean, smell is a big one. This is going to sound a little bit weird, but like when you walk into a house that's for sale and it doesn't smell right, like, it turns a lot of people off.
When I bought my home, we looked in it in December, and she had all the Christmas decorations were down, but she had like a pine candle going in the kitchen, and I immediately walked in, and it smelled like home. And then we ended up buying that home
because it's an emotion, like it's a sense, right? Like, so,
and then
something
goes in your head of being
something
like,
went
I can
off,
imagine raising my children here or putting the Christmas tree up.
So as silly as that sounds, and I have these conversations every single day with people, and they look at me and they're just like, they almost laugh. But like, again, it means you got to do everything you possibly can. And it's as simple as it is. Make sure you're doing everything you possibly can. So, I mean, I don't think there's a perfect formula either, you know, for the marketing, video.
Well, if there was, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I mean, even you girls starting the podcast, I mean, this is great, and you're putting yourself out there too, and it's the same thing. You got to do it. So I think you guys were telling me I'm like number 4 or
of doing the video with
of doing the videos.
Yes. I think you're like episode 42. You're going to be like episode 42. So we have the audio down. We just got to get the video down. Yeah. But now that we've heard.
Yeah.
Jordan might be in our office every other.
There you go. He's for hire. But yeah, I would, you know, I mean, it's a process. It's a process for a lot of different reasons too. So
where can people find you?
Google, Ryan Pertile, but Instagram. I mean, if you're an agent in today's world and you can't really be found through Google, then you've got something majorly wrong.
Yeah.
But Instagram, Ryan Pertile, is probably the best place. And that's my most frequent channel of social that people are engaging on. But that might change in the near future.
Yeah.
You never know. We're always trying to up the bar as much as we possibly can. But yeah, check that out. And there's a lot of good stuff there. And then majority of the listings that we put on the YouTube channel, just because they're a little bit longer format. But again, they'll cross over for sure. So we do a great job of that.
And we'll put all those in the show notes. We're going to include your TikTok and everything in there.
Absolutely.
Ryan, this has been great because I actually think this might be one of our only podcasts where you really focused on how what you're doing is adding value to your clients and not you as a real estate agent. Like, do you know what I mean though? Like, obviously it's adding value to you, but you just kept coming back to like how like you're doing, this is what's best for your client, representing your client, working hard for your client. And I think that's what makes you a great agent. And I think that's what helps you get business, is because you always have your client's best interests in mind.
Well, that's always been my number one rule when I got into the industry. And it wasn't about how many transactions I could do or anything. It was the people that actually trust me to hire me, whether it's on the buy side or the sell side. It's all about their best interest. And even in today's market, because it is so chaotic, I've had to tell people this is not the house for you, or, okay, like here's your ceiling, or we have to talk about certain price points, or like, just even though that they really want to be a buyer, because there's certain areas, again, that are going to appreciate more than others. And I know some people are having that FOMO. And if I sell that property to them and they come back in 5 years and they have to resell it and they overpaid for it, I'm going to feel like the ass, because they wanted my professional opinion. So from day one, this isn't anything new for me, but like in today's market, it's really showing. And my clients really appreciate that. And they know that I have then their best interest, not just to do a deal, because that's how they know we get paid, is like, okay, you're going to do a deal and you're going to get paid. But like, I really want them to feel comfortable. And if it's the right place, absolutely, we will do everything that we can. But there's been times where we've had to have real heart-to-heart conversations, and at the end of it, they've looked at me and they said thank you, because this could have been a snowball effect, and it maybe could have hurt us more financially than we were actually thinking about. And that's the last thing I'd ever want, is to put any of my clients into that financial burden, and then have it come back to me, because hopefully in that 5, 10, 20 years, whenever they do go to sell, like they're calling me again.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to sell it again for the premium price that they deserve. So number one, it's a non-negotiable. Basically, it's the client that always comes first. It's not about Ryan.
The client's the hero of the story. Mic drop.
Boom.
Shouldn't have even said anything. Should have just pressed the button. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. It's been a pleasure.